Hey you guys, this is a basic reminder video. So it's about a very important step in the checklist. If you're not using the checklist, maybe you should be using the checklist. If you are using the checklist, are you forgetting step 5 in the checklist? Did my opponent just do something dumb? Now, opponents do dumb things. Everyone makes mistakes. Chess is about mistakes. It's the mistakes that decide games. And it happens at every level. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a game with you that I played today. And this was on Lichess. So I'm 1838 on Lichess. My opponent's rated 1777. Now, if you're a lower rated player, that might sound like, wow, you know, advanced expert players, but you're going to see the reality now is everyone makes mistakes, and the most important thing to know about mistakes is you need to be ready to spot them when they happen. Okay, and I'd call it like, it's almost like the dummy clause in the checklist. You have to be prepared for the possibility that your opponent just did something dumb. You shouldn't go into a game thinking my opponent is a dummy. That is going to set you up to get stabbed in the guts. Do not, you know, you should be, every move your opponent makes or every turn your opponent has, you should be anticipating the best move that you think they can play, or something even better that you can't think of. You should definitely respect your opponents. And at the same time, there's this paradox that your opponent might have just been a dummy on their previous move, as we shall see. Okay, so we start, I have the white pieces and my opponent plays the modern, which bothers me. I've recently gone back to the Vienna game, by the way. I love it too much to give it up for the Danish anyway. So, grab the centre, obviously. He fianchettos his bishop, so this is a hyper-modern approach. He's not contesting the centre at all. He's letting me, what's going on with my arrows? He's letting me have full control over the centre for now, but he's got a kind of a diagonal influence already with his bishop. He's going to want to bring his knight out, and later on in the game he's going to push his pawns forward. That's the idea of the modern. So I develop my knight. Obviously his bishop's looking at this pawn, currently defended only by the queen, so let's defend it twice, why not? This pawn, however, is still undefended. You have to notice these things. And it looks like he's going for a double fianchetto, which is very dull. So out comes my other kingside minor piece. White is now ready to castle. Happy days, nothing wrong with this picture. My bishop's looking down at f7, which is defended, it must be noted, only by the king. So, for example, should my opponent come and pin my bishop, we know this pattern, that we have bishop takes f7, king takes, knight moves with check, king has to move again, queen takes bishop. Okay, that's the old f7 bishop sack line, but it's not really a sack. It's no sacrifice. Okay, and now e6. So clearly my opponent doesn't want me ganging up on the f7 square with my knight and my bishop. Absolutely not, very sensible move. So I castle, and he pushes d6. So my opponent's playing very close to his chest right now. He's got some kind of direct control over his half of the centre, but he's got very little control over my half of the centre. The only squares his pieces are looking at in my half of the board are these two, from what I can see. Yeah. I, on the other hand, am controlling that. Lots of squares. I think that's it, isn't it? Oh, and this one. Sorry, this one with the bishop. So I've definitely got the upper hand in terms of space. What do we do now? Just carry on developing. Bring my bishop out to here, harass the queen. I'm trying to prompt him into making another pawn move because I think that will hurt him. He's already made 4. We're on move 6. He's made 4 pawn moves, and what that means is, because you only have to make 2 to release your bishops and complete development, right? So he's made 2 unforced pawn moves, unnecessary ones. This one was good because it released the bishop. This one could be good because it released the bishop. But this one and this one also released the bishops, and you didn't need to do that because whatever. So it's about, so he's pushed these, made these moves, or certainly this one I would say, based on the fact that I've got this kind of advantage in development and I'm now starting to probe at his position. So anyway, we bring out the bishop now to g5. It comes with the threat, it's a forcing move. I'm attacking his queen, something must be done. Is he going to move his bishop a second time? To here? Obviously not there, that's just stupid. Or is he going to move his knight? Or is he going to pin his knight against the queen? Or is he going to move his knight there and pin it against the queen? Or is he going to move the queen out of the way? Let's find out. Bishop f6, and now he's moved a developed piece a second time. You can see that eval bar fancies white at this point. I'm plus 1.3 at this point. So yeah, moving a developed piece twice is another kind of slight demerit. However, it now puts the pressure on me because I now have two attackers on this bishop. I've got the bishop itself and then the queen behind it. So now I need to do something. Now, always, 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 if you can, try and find an option in your candidate moves for achieving the thing that you have decided you have to do with development. So I would prefer not to move my bishop for reasons that we've just explained. It's already developed. My job here in the opening is to develop everything. So queen d2. Queen d2 adds a second defender to the bishop. It's attacked twice, so there's nothing in it for black to trade. It would just be an equal trade of bishops. And obviously he doesn't want to trade queens, so... And then what's he doing? He's just eliminating these and inviting my knight into his side of the board. So he doesn't do that. Instead he thinks, I know what I'll do. There's still pawns that I haven't moved one square. Let's push c6. And this is a peculiar move, I think. Yeah, he's now looking at these squares. He's no longer looking at these squares. This pawn is now defended only by the queen. And he's blocking off this square from the knight. So generally, what the? Huh? You know? Seriously, black? What are you doing? And, you know, the computer agrees. It's like 1.4 now for white. I now push c3. So this counts as an unnecessary pawn move. I'm just kind of overprotecting this pawn. I'm also blocking off the square for my knight, but I've already decided that my knight's probably going to come into the game this way. So all I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to move my queen. I just like the idea of, like as Daniel Naroditsky says, make this bishop bite on granite. So really take out any scope of that bishop or any ideas of ever capturing on there. Just reinforce with the pawn so that my pieces can move forward. All right? And again, as we go through this, every move, we're trying to spot blunders. Right. Computer didn't like that, does it? 2.5 now. And he's a pawn addict. He's another pawn addict. So, a couple of options here. Bishop back to here, or bishop to here or here. Now, the way I'm thinking about it is, this pawn's currently undefended, and what you have to do is you have to look at this diagonal and look at this diagonal and gaze upon these diagonals and ask yourself, which diagonal do I think has most future? Now, this one has got two light coloured pawns on it, and this one also has two light coloured pawns on it. So, pretty much equal there. This pawn's more likely to move than this one at some point in time. But I decided just to put my bishop on d3 with the idea of A, defending this pawn because it wasn't defended before. And just, I'm now looking at this instead of this. And I might have an idea at some point of moving this pawn. I might send the f pawn up to break through, smash through the enemy lines. Reasonable move. Computer agrees. And now black plays this knight across to here as a second defender to the bishop. It's now defended by two knights. I could have an idea here of dropping my bishop in there. And then if knight takes, my queen gets in and prevents castling. But I'm not altogether sure that black castled at all in this game. So I now put my queen on e3. The reason is I want to clear this space for my knight. I want my knight to be able to come out, buddy up with this one, help support the centre. And this knight over here is completely pointless because where's the king? King's over there, right? So this knight wants to make progress towards that guy because we want to kill him. That's the point of chess. My opponent now pushes a pawn. Surprise, surprise! Computer hates it. And, okay, he's challenging for the centre, but what he's not doing, notice, is developing his stuff. This is move 10. And he's still got 2 minor pieces on the back rank, a queen on the back rank, and he's still uncastled. Not good, Precious, not good. Now we've got a few options here. I could take the pawn. I could push the pawn. I could push this pawn and counterattack the bishop, for example. In the game, I play e5 and counterattack the bishop. Computer says that's not fantastic, but I feel like I'm on the front foot, right? And again, look at the board. Reading the board, my king is safe as houses over here, happy, got his feet up, got his pipe, he's happy. This king, however, is uncastled, as we just said. So when the opponent's king is uncastled, you want to bust some stuff up in the middle of the board. So here I want to, you see, with this pawn move, I know that I'm attacking 2 things. So he's got to do something. He's got to capture something on the next move. Otherwise, I just take his bishop, right? Or if his bishop moves away, I just take this pawn for free and opens up. Or maybe his bishop moves here. I still take the pawn for free because he can't recapture because it's pinned. Yeah? I'm also, it has to be said, attacking the pinned piece. The bishop is pinned against the queen, can't move. So, something must be done. So, black here captures on d4. And the eagle-eyed among you will notice that the eval bar has just swung. What's wrong with this move? Well, he's attacking my queen, but yeah, his queen is still attacked there. So I could, for example, capture the bishop and attack his queen, but what you've got to do then, you've got to calculate it through. So I take bishop, let's say he takes queen, I take queen, his pawn comes through with check. That's often an issue with these multiple capture sequences. And you've got to figure that out. So I figure my bishop is actually quite safe. He's just taken my pawn. Why not? And he's just captured towards the center as well. So I just figure the easiest thing is this. Now, what's undefended on my opponent's part of the board? I did not do my goldfish at this point in time. Now, we don't have timestamps on this, but now is when your little spider senses should start tingling, going, yeah, we've got maybe some threats here. Okay, the key thing is that I've got pawns on dark squares in the center of the board, still got a light square bishop and a queen on the board, and my opponent has a weakness that I did not notice. Right, he trades here, I recapture. Bishop still defended twice, and I've achieved my objective of clearing the way in the middle of the board. My opponent now captures a knight, my pawn, with his knight. Now, there's a few things going on here. So, for example, I could capture the knight, and bishop can't recapture because I win the queen. Right, that's one idea. I could capture the bishop and attack queen and rook, right? Which will force either knight or queen to take, pretty much. And then I can recapture the knight as well. So I've got options. In the game, I capture on f6. The computer says yes. And I now have a fork on queen and rook. I did notice that black has this option though. Now, and I think black here miscalculated. Right, so I'd already figured this one out, that he has this and it comes with check, very important. And you can sometimes win tempo, win material because of that. So despite the fact I'm looking at his queen, this is more forcing. I can't take his queen if I'm in check. So black now plays this, but then what did I notice? I noticed I have, as a device, queen takes knight, and now I'm actually defending the bishop once. But more importantly, I'm up, well, I'm currently up a piece for a pawn, but I'm about to lose my bishop, clearly. Now, this is where the blundering is all happening, because we've missed something on the board. I've missed it. My opponent has missed it. What have we missed? What we've missed is that this rook hangs. Okay, so I'm actually now down 1 pawn in terms of material, but I have plenty of compensation. This pawn's hanging, and look, that rook is hanging in the corner, and I miss it, and I miss it for several turns, which means that the computer report says blunder, 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 you absolute muppet, you wally. Right, now, my opponent, I miss it. He clearly misses it, because what he should have done is saved his rook, not captured the bishop. I miss it. I capture this pawn with check, and the eval bar is now shooting down more towards, it's settled down at 1 now. So it doesn't like white's position anywhere near as much as if I'd taken the blundered rook. But then I blundered by not seeing the blundered rook, okay? And this is the point. This is the point. Why? It's not as though that's hard to spot. All this is discipline. And this is an 1800, 1700 on Lee chess, so maybe like 1600, 1500 equivalent on chess.com. But we're talking intermediate level. These are, you know, my opponent and I are both intermediate level chess players, or improving chess players. We really shouldn't be making these kinds of blunders, but this is the point. People shouldn't make blunders because they're not that hard to spot, right? And people make blunders. So the point of the exercise is always be ready. Ask yourself that question. Did my opponent just do something dumb, right? And it came from this point, right? Here, his rook is now on prise, undefended, i.e. hanging, right? The dumb thing my opponent did was that. And here's what I think goes on, right? You look at the thing that just happened, but I'd failed to say, now what's changed on the board after my move? After my move. All I'm thinking about is counting attackers and defenders on this bishop, right? And I completely missed the fact that dumbass had left his rook hanging in the corner. And so did dumbass. You know, he's only dumbass for this particular move. So let's carry on, because there's more. So I grabbed the pawn with check. Computer doesn't like it because it says you're a jellyhead because you should have captured the rook. And I'm like, huh? Dumbass now moves his king for no good reason whatsoever. This is just bizarre, right? I do actually have, I've got a potential check here, but also he's still left his rook hanging. And guess what? Dummy here misses it. Dummy here is only thinking about, oh, I haven't developed my knight. I best develop my knight, right? And look, beep, 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 beep. Anyway, I've completed development for my sins. Material is absolutely equal, but my opponent's king is now moved because he's a jellyhead as well. And now comes the point, he's trying to hide his king in there. But this isn't going to help too much. So, again, I missed the fact that the rook's hanging. So I decide to attack his queen, and the computer is going, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, well. Now it's 0.1. So now it's actually completely drawn position, according to the machine. And again, I miss it again. But maybe he spotted it here. Right? Maybe he has. And I think at this point I went, oh, rook. Anyway, so I trade off because I know he can't capture the queen because then rook takes queen and I win. So he's got to capture the pawn, giving himself an isolated pawn in the middle of the board. It can't be defended ever by another pawn, and just removing a little bit of junk around the king. So pawn takes, and now I can win a pawn actually. And I decide here to capture with the rook because it comes with the threat of attacking the queen, and I might have ideas of doubling up my rook. So it's a free rook lift. Thank you very much. Okay, can you spot the blunder? Not too difficult. Black, rated 1777 on Lee Chess, leaves his queen hanging, and this time our hero spots it. You know, that I can manage. That I can manage. I win the queen. Hooray for me! And now his rooks are connected, right? But I'm up a big fat exchange, as I call it. I'm up a queen for a rook. Happy days. Let's finish this bugger off. Queen to c3. Just general idea. I want to keep my rook here, right? Because it doesn't matter. Whatever he drops onto the back rank, I'm just going to snatch off. Yeah. Put my queen on a dark square. He's only got a light squared bishop. I also have a light squared bishop. I just generally want to keep my queen out of danger. He's also got light squared pawns, so I can attack him on the dark squares. King retreats. I just push b3 to prevent... It's just taking ideas away from his bishop. I don't want his bishop capturing that pawn. He attacks my queen. And now it's a relatively simple procedure. I just want to swap off the bishops. I want to swap off a pair of rooks if I can. I want to sweep up any pawns. And I want to storm through and just win. So I play my queen over here. Not sure why that was the right move, but the computer doesn't mind. He attacks my queen. I go onto a dark square. He comes back. I grab the pawn. He comes in with ideas of attacking this, but I know that my queen's defending that pawn, and that's defended twice by rook and king, so nothing to worry about there. I drop my queen back now. Got ideas maybe of dropping my bishop to here, trying to force an exchange of bishops if I can. He doubles up his rooks on the 7th rank, well, my 2nd rank, his 7th, which is generally a good thing. Now I'm not too concerned about pawns here. If I can swap off material, that's my main thing. So now I put my bishop here. I just want to trade off. And he grabs there, but I then come in with check, right? This is what he's missed. So I can now evade the attack with check, which takes a move away from him. And look what happens, right? I'd spotted this. He has to move his king. There's only one legal move on the board. He has to go there. And now look, I've actually got 2 attackers on the bishop, and it's only defended once. So king moves, trade bishops, win a pawn, and defend this guy for good measure. What's not to like? Okay, and now he comes to attacks my queen. I'm like, give check, and I just start moving my pawn up the board. He attacks my queen again, I give check. His king moves. Check again. King moves again, just move the pawn up the board. Simple stuff. At this point in the game, there's only one thing you need to say to yourself is, what has to happen in order to win? You know, how do I get the best result in this game? The best result here is clearly a win. The easiest way to get that is to get another queen. I've got a completely passed pawn. I've got loads of mobility. The board's wide open. I've got a queen. He hasn't. Happy days. Right, now obviously queen d7 with check. Also defending the pawn. But we're just going to keep shuffling this guy up. Up he comes. Now the rook decides, oh, I better threaten the pawn. Doesn't matter. Push the pawn forward, defended by the queen. Now he attacks my queen, and I simply grab the rook, okay? Why? Because I know if this rook recaptures, yeah, then I just queen. Rook recaptures, I get the queen. I'm now up a full queen. He pushes a pawn, not the best idea, probably, but he's in a dead loss situation. I give check, king moves, I come down, attack the rook moves. Now I come to here with check, and here, and now f4. So clearly what I'm doing is, I just want to remove this pawn. I just want to get stuff out of the way and get down the pub, really, effectively. He pushes a pawn now, and what would you play in this situation? So the move that I play is f5 check. Yeah, I could just trade off some pawns, and it's still dead winning position. But this is a threat, right? It's a nasty threat. King moves, not the best idea, because queen takes. Oh, in fact, I had queen takes pawn, which I could have just traded my queen off for this. But I've decided to come in here because that would actually be checkmate as well. So king moves here, and I just push the pawn on. He grabs it, but this is a nice little move. This is a nice little move. Queen to here, now why? Right? Yeah, I could have just traded off rooks. Right? But what's better than trading rooks? Winning a rook outright. The king cannot stay on the e file because of my queen. The king cannot step onto the f file because of my rook. And what's more, he can't get behind his own rook. So he's the only legal, and the rook can't block. So the only legal moves is to go somewhere on the d file, and black here simply resigns, which he should do, right? But what's the point? Here's the point, dude. Your opponent may have just done something dumb on every move of the game. Now, let's take off self-analysis, so now we can see the graph and stuff. So we've got here some great moves, right? They're like best moves on the board. Here we've got a blunder right at the start, apparently, by black. So, or is it right at the start? Let's go. Oh no, got a sequence of blunders, okay? So these are mistakes and then inaccuracies, and I make the first blunder, right? Bishop takes b5 is a blunder because should have taken the stupid rook. This is a blunder because he should have saved the stupid rook. That's a missed win because I should have taken the stupid rook. There he blunders again, you know. This is the point, right? This is the point. This is a mistake because queen takes d2, which was what was played in the game. Now, if you are not automatically asking the question or looking for the blunder that your opponent just made, then it's so easy to miss. It's like this old story, was it like in Polynesia or something, these Dutch or Portuguese sailors rolled up in this bay with their giant ships the size of a building, right? And apparently the local natives couldn't see the ships because they were so far outside of their realm of understanding that they were almost just invisible to them. They couldn't mentally comprehend that the ships were there. And it's a bit like that. It's like when you're playing, sometimes I mean, look, in most games there are blunders, in my experience, if not mistakes when you get to a much higher level. You've got to, if you're not doing it automatically, if you're not asking yourself the question, if you're not scanning the board and just double checking that your opponent didn't just do something completely jelly-brained, right? Then you need to be doing it consciously. You need to scan the board for undefended pieces, scan the board for attacks, ask yourself what changed with with your opponent's last move. And don't forget, ask yourself what changed with your own last move too. The note to self there, yeah? Until it becomes automatic. And I would say that for the majority of us, it ain't automatic, so crack on, you know? Use the checklist, you will simply play better and you will avoid missing stupid stuff, because stupid stuff happens. If the one thing that you can guarantee in life is that stupid stuff is always going to happen. Don't assume, don't go into a game thinking my opponent is weak. Go into a game thinking I'm going to have a healthy respect for my opponent and I'm going to try and slaughter him at the same time, and I am going to be open to the possibility that on any particular move he could do something completely and utterly dumb, right? Build it into your game until it's automatic, okay? That's it. Thanks for watching. See you later.